Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're starting to cheer, if that's okay.
Rabbi, you want to talk about the calendar stuff?
I was not.
Oh, okay.
I'll
I'm going to ask you a half dozen questions separately.
Yeah. I'll tell you why after. You'll see in a second. So everyone has to decide which topics interest them the most. There's a lot of topics to chew on. So I was talking to my chavrusa, and he wanted to go right to the dolls and the baby dolls at the end. I'm sure for some people that was interesting. It seems like the calendar got someone's interest. For me, I had maybe a little bit of personal interest to focus on the drawing pictures, specifically of the constellations and sunken versus protruding images. And I brought a little prop to explain why that, of all the topics, captured my attention the most. And that is actually a picture of a wall in my home. For any of those who've been in my home, you may have remembered I have a very interesting looking wall. And the story of the wall is when we first saw the image of our wall, we were looking at our house on, on the MLS. I thought it looked like, the Jerusalem stone. I thought it was like the Kotel. But then you get a little bit closer and you realize there are these very strange looking, almost like Mayan, Aztec images that are literally protruding from my wall. There's some depth to it. They're made out of styrofoam if you touch it. So what the first shiloh I asked when I bought my home was, I called my Rebbe and I said, I think I have a problematic wall, a wall of Avoda Zara in my home. And he said, well, describe to me what is on it. And I said, well, it looks to me like there are some pictures of some drums, and then in the middle there's something. I don't know what that is. If it's a face or just images, it's really unclear. And so the sugya tonight, and you can look at this picture later or come to my house to look at what I'm talking about, but essentially the sugya about drawing pictures is there different shitot. For those who have noticed, the Rambam seems to say that all other images that are not, there are three categories. There's the constellations, there's people, those are the more machmir shitas, the more gray areas, and then there's the image of all other images. The Rambam says all other images, sunken, protruding, it really doesn't matter. As long as we're not talking about human faces or constellations, which in point to all, an analyst, there's no human face or constellations, so it'd be okay. But if you saw there's a shita of the Ramban said all protruding images. It didn't say whether it's a tree or a bear or a human or the sun is problematic. So how do we paskin on this issue? The Shulchan Aruch seems to paskin like the Rambam and Tosfos, which have a third category, which is totally mutter, even if protruding. And based on that, I think it's based on that, Rav Simon said, you have nothing to worry about in your case because there's no constellation and there's no images of people. And that was the answer. So I remember telling him, Rebbe, I'm nervous if a chassid or some bashula comes to my house and they see my wall, they're going to raise some eyebrows. So he said, so they won't come. It's okay. He wasn't too concerned when I was worried how people would judge me if they saw the wall I have. But either way, when I saw the Ramban Shita, I was a little bit nervous that Shita would seem to answer my wall. And I noticed that the Taz, if anyone got to Machlokas Shach Taz, the Shach says there's no problem whatsoever. The Taz quotes from the Tur, who does bring down the Ramban and the Halacha. So there are those who do think the Ramban, who says all protruding images are problematic. So I guess I'm relying on the Shach and the Shulchan Aruch. Now, just building off of that shir, a few other ha'aros. One is just the idea within constellation. Something I thought about, that there was a tshuva of Rav Moshe. The Rav Moshe tshuva was on page 74. And Rav Moshe tshuva was talking about kids drawing the constellations. The question posed to Rav Moshe was, can children draw the stars, the moon, and the sun? And he essentially said that little kids, before the age of chinuch, their accuracy when they're drawing, no one's going to say, oh, look, they're doing Avoda Zara. You might not even be able to tell what it is they're drawing. He concludes the tshuva by saying that it's best not to teach your kids when they're young how to draw the sun, the moon, and the stars, because as they get older, their skill will improve, and they'll get more and more accurate over time, which is very machmir shita if you think about it for all those budding artists out there. Rav Moshe seems to be, again, teaching your kid how to draw constellations. But I thought maybe, again, I didn't see zero inside. Maybe this is the source why many artists or many art teachers teach you to draw the sun only the sliver in the corner. That perhaps the idea that's how I was taught to draw the sun. I thought maybe it's just for the boys who don't know how to do the full picture. They do the corner. But no, maybe it's halachic basis why you're taught to do the sun in the corner is that it shouldn't really look like the sun, the moon, the stars. And so when I was always taught to son, I did it in the corner, so it's not the full form. Maybe that's some sort of a halachic kiyum according to those who are against writing the constellations. Okay, that's the first thing I want to talk about in terms of drawing pictures. Then I want to just talk about the photography share for 2 seconds. I just want to draw your attention. There's a very fascinating Tzurba on page 69, which is the discussion of the Mishnah Halachos, which is in Rav Klein, discussion of does one have a right to someone else take a picture of them? Am I allowed to refuse someone else to take a picture of them? So I have a great story to share with you in 1 second, but before I just want to share a halachic analysis. He says that in the middle, there are 3 dots in that last source 29, he says, Ubar min din nira, there's an issue of stealing. If someone takes my picture, it's in my right to sell. A person has the right to sell images of themselves. And I can make money off this. If someone else takes pictures of me without my consent, they are mazik mamon. They are stealing from me. I thought perhaps this line just stuck me that this would be not that the paparazzi thinks they're doing anything right. I think this would be an issue in the paparazzi. This notion that someone come over and just take a picture of you and make money off of it. People with all these tabloid magazines. So according to the Mishnah Halachos, it's mamish geza. Who gives anyone a right to come and make money off your image? You have a right to make money off of your own image, but if someone else do it, they need to have consent. So that was an interesting ha'ara. And then later, he also talks about intellectual property. In the same Tzurba, he says, 5 lines from the back, he says, it's clear that you wouldn't be able to, if I have some Chidushay Torah, you can't come and copy my Chidushay Torah, you can't copy my drasha. If you're not allowed to come and steal someone else's ideas, intellectual property, certainly cannot steal their image themselves. So I just thought this was very interesting. He says, usually we say seeing something. I'm allowed to look. You can't block me from looking at you. But taking a picture of someone, also believe shoot. You need to have permission. I think it's a powerful idea. The idea that you need to ask permission before you take someone's picture.
So are we touching on, forget about selling the photograph, the privacy issue? You're not allowed to take my picture because I have a right to privacy? Or is it just that you can't sell my photograph? He seems
to be taking from a din nezek mamo, that since I have a right to make money off of my property, my image, therefore you cannot take my image to sell. That seems to be that, just to have my photo in your album, that seems to be okay. But selling it, you would need consent, which I don't know how that works in the legal sphere also. Do you need consent to...
There's no expectation of privacy in the public space, so I can have a picture of you.
How does the National Enquirer get these pictures of people?
They're legal.
They are legal?
They are legal.
So halacha does not agree with the legality.
But there is a concept of royalties when you have...
There's no expectation that you have value in your own body and you have an exclusive right to reproduce images of yourself. There's a privacy component. If someone snaps a picture of you where you have an expectation of privacy, you may have a claim. But
if you go to a conference and sign a release that says, "Oh, I'm releasing my right," you have to do that. You have to release your right to your image and.
So I thought I want to draw your attention for those who may have glossed over that point. And I just want to share one story with this I'll end. So when I was in yeshiva, Aridan might remember this. The discussion over here is about do I have a right of refusal if someone takes a picture of me? So Ariel and Yoni were there. So we were in yeshiva. One of our friends, it doesn't matter his name, but he was a guy who went to Skokie and then Shalvin with us. So he went to a shir by Rav Moshe Shapiro, who was a big gadol. He passed away a few years ago. He's an expert in Jewish thought, in the Kashkafa, and he would give a weekly shir for 300, 400 people, some of Yerushalayim. And every week, one of our band would take a few boys to go listen to the shir. And this Shana Aleph boy, innocent, nice guy, in the middle of the shir, stood up and took a picture of Moshe Shapiro. And Moshe Shapiro stopped the shir, a flash went off. He stopped the shir, and he's told his shamashim that this boy has to leave. He needs to be kicked out. And this boy, again, I wasn't there, but it was described. You were there that night? Yeah. Wow. Okay. It was described to me. Ariel can confirm. It was described to me. It was described as a walk of shame that he had to walk out in front of hundreds of other B'nai Torah, and it's very embarrassing. and he was incredibly embarrassed by this whole story. To the point he was broken. He was pretty upset, and at the time I was aghast that Adam Gadol could have done this to someone. I mean, how could he have embarrassed him in public? I didn't even know there was a sugya about pictures and the hashkafa of taking a picture. So in these sources, again, look through the sources here. Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't the photograph. Maybe it was the flash. Flash is very disruptive.
I think it was the photograph. He discusses here.
That's worse than taking a picture.
I forget where it is exactly, but he discusses it here somewhere that there is a midat chasidut, that the image of a person will actually impact their olam haba. There's something about of the olam haba. And my wife even said, if you notice a lot of Rebbeim Gedolim pictures, the Gedolim are kind of looking down. They're trying to avoid the gaze. So the postscript of the story is our Rebbe brought this boy back on Purim to this Rebbe to apologize. I think the Rebbe gave him a smack on his cheek and they made up or whatever. They moved on. But it was a very memorable experience. And for me, learning the sugya and seeing there really is legs for this matter, at least I feel, okay, at least this Adam Gadol thought that he was in the right to prevent this person taking pictures. And the last thing I'll just say is also to say about dolls. If anyone's been to a Haredi house and seen the face dolls, and you're wondering what is wrong with these kids, like sick kids over here, I thought it was very interesting to learn the sugya about the facing dolls, because I never seen that growing up, but I can imagine you go into the house of a big rabbi, you see their kids' dolls, you're wondering if the kids need a therapist. But it's important to read the sugya. You didn't get to that part of the sugya. Okay. I never.
They're dolls on our faces.
So I think it's just very interesting to see that the sources have some topics that maybe in our upbringing we were not brought to our attention. Okay, we'll stop the share here, and thank you everyone for coming again.